Thank you.
Okay, welcome again, everybody. Another good turnout for the meeting. Thank you very much. A few things to report from the core team meeting that's just finished. Headline really in terms of what's happening in the village is that everything is ticking over very nicely. The initiatives we've got going, such as the food parcels and the prescriptions and so on, it all seems to be working very well. And in the absence of any news to the contrary from your good selves, I'm assuming that everything at Street Volunteer and Coordinator is going well. Please let me know if it isn't. I've got some statistics for you, which is encouraging. There have been no new COVID cases in Cambridgeshire in the last 3 days. And there have been no new cases in Cambridge City for the last 10 days. And yesterday was the first day that there have been no COVID-related deaths in East Anglia. So all of that, I think, is very encouraging. As people are released to do more and more travelling, however, we mustn't get complacent. And one of the hottest spots in the country is Bedford, which is only 30 miles away. So we mustn't be complacent that there won't be a second wave or there won't be an increase in infections. The big news, of course, on everyone's mind at the moment is what our esteemed leader is going to say this evening. So it's looking like July the 4th will be a key date, and that there will be a lot more freedom from July the 4th. And in particular, July the 6th has already been announced as being a key date for those who are shielding. I think, well, we thought at the core team meeting that a focus of our group going forward is going to be how can we help those people who have been completely isolated within doors get back into the real world. Or as Nikki said it in a communication with me, how do we help them to fledge? Which I thought was a very nice way of putting it. So we're going to be giving some thought to that, and it'd be good if you could give some thought to that as well and let us know any ideas that you may have. The plan is that we're going to do some proper research into what the official government guidance is, and later this week, possibly on Friday, we're going to send a letter out to everybody saying what the situation is regarding the government guidance and what we could be doing, and send it out to all the street coordinators. If you have any ideas or if you have any concerns, please let us know and we'll try and incorporate it into that message. So one more thing from me. We talked last week about mental health and how people might have issues as coming out of lockdown with mental health and their mental well-being. We are going to have a meeting with County Council mental health experts tomorrow afternoon. And hopefully something will come out of that with some ideas as to how we can positively help people who might be heading towards having mental health issues. And what we can do, if anything, in helping them to cope, or more a case of preventative, so helping to prevent such issues arising. So that's the news, if you like, from the core team. So has anybody got any chat they want to share about that, or indeed about anything else that is going on? And Yvonne, okay, I've just had a message that Yvonne has been struggling to get in and can't help us, can't join us. Anything else people want to chat about? Well, rather than have silence, maybe Paul Seekins would like to tell us about his the older person's newspaper that we're talking about.
Yeah, quite happy to do that, Don. Actually, people can even see me. There we go. So we put together, I mean, it links really with what Don was talking about, particularly with folks who've had to stay at home for whatever reason. We're very conscious that we've probably dealt very well with prescriptions, medications, but if you like, the social element is probably, and the leisure element is rightly so taken a back seat, and it's just trying to bring that maybe forward. So we've put together a newsletter that hopefully, thank you, Ed, for filling in the bits that I missed off. Sorry, Ed. Hopefully that should be with the printers, and my anticipation is, if Neil's on the call, he can tell us when, but maybe the end of this week we should be able to get that out to folks. The distribution is written for folks generically who've been at home, so it's not exclusively for older people, but probably has a slant towards that way. And there's all sorts of things in there. We're conscious of activities that might be useful for them, for folks who are there. So I put a word search in, things like that. There's a poem there. I shouldn't tell you too much because you won't read it, will you? So I've just got to tease you, haven't I? So there's a few little activities there, a few thoughts, a few things about how to keep well, some exercises there as well that folks can benefit from. So the distribution-wise, we know of all the places that we would expect older people to be living in the village, or with places like Cahitch Way, the bungalows in Hereward Close, Homefield Close, etc., etc. So those places we will put the newsletter to. I also know of 47 different older people outside of the places that we would usually expect them to be, so we can deliver them to those. We've got Brackenbury, obviously, Windmill Grange as well, all of those. But where the street volunteers and coordinators come in is Don will circulate it once it's actually finalised. And I'd like you, well, my request really is for you to read it and see, is there anybody that you're aware of who you think might benefit from some of the things in there? If there is, then we can easily get something to them. We'll have some extra copies, so just let me know. We can get them out to folks. So that's really just to try to explain to people many of the services that are around and are available. There's things like the Trishaw is in there, the mobile phones that we provided. So you'll see it, have a read of it, and if it's useful for folks, then let us know. We can get a copy to them and go from there. Is that okay, Don?
That's great, thank you. You mentioned the mobile phones that we talked about last week. Have there been any calls for that?
I haven't seen any yet, no. But I've managed to press buttons and make it all happen with the helps of likes of Ed and others and Chris. So yeah, so we are up and running for that. So that is a service that is available. So that's really, I think, what this newsletter is attempting to try and do is have a little bit of fun and a little bit of excitement, a little bit of leisure, but also make people aware of some of the things that are going on, like mobile phone, Trishaw, those sorts of things that are available to folks in the community to try and help.
And these are people that don't necessarily look at Facebook or HI Hub every day.
That was the logic. So I mean, obviously there is electronic version is entirely fine, but the point was to try and print something and actually put it through folks' doors who don't have access to the internet. Yeah. Good. And also put things like, we'll put some copies in post office, in the doctor's surgery, those sorts of places as well. So it's just to try and spread the news far and wide. If anybody can think of anywhere else where we should be putting them in, more than happy to do whatever. It's just spreading it out.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for that, Paul. Would you mind dropping some off with me so we can get them to the people delivering prescriptions?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, that's fine.
We might be able to drop some off to the right people at the right time.
Yeah, you see where we're coming from. It's just try and target whoever it would be appropriate for.
Yeah,
that's a good idea, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you.
How many, Nick, do you want?
50.
Yeah.
just Paul rightly mentioned, it's not just the elderly that this is targeted at. The Cambridge News this morning has a survey, national survey, of which age group are most likely to feel lonely because of the virus and all that's going on, and it's the under 30s.
Okay, thank you. Right, so on to the chat. Lizette, I didn't think you were going to be able to join us today. I was going to mention your fund later, but if you're here, please go ahead and talk about it.
Hi, I'm going to start my video. My other meeting was pushed back, so I've got a few minutes. So I thought I'd pop in and
excellent.
Just, yeah, that's great. Thanks so much, Don. So the co-op has something called a local community fund, which is something where you any local organisation can apply, and you if you get accepted as one of 3 funds attached to our local co-op, then a proportion of every member's points, which interprets to money, is then allocated towards that organisation. So it's a way of distributing funds, because obviously that's what the co-op is about. It's about distributing the money that is made throughout the community. And in previous years, we've had not every organisation that has applied has been local. So I'm really keen to make sure that we get local organisations applying for those funds. And it occurs to me that lots of the ideas that people are having on this in this group are things that they could actually apply to the co-op for funds for, so that you can increase it. So for example, those phones that Paul Seekings is using, you know, perhaps you could expand that scheme with more phones, or you could expand it with having tablets for people who could access the internet if they were given a device. You know, the Friends of Histon Library might want to apply, because obviously without a library for a while, it could be a way that you could reach people. You know, if you had an idea. I'm sure there are lots of ideas, and also thinking about things like how we can help people with their mental health, and how we can help people with in some way with finance coming out of this. I'm sure people have got lots of ideas. The only trouble is we need to get applications in by the 28th of June, so we don't have much time left. So I just wanted to just quickly raise it here in case anybody has got an idea. In case you're thinking, well, I can't apply because I'm an individual and I'm not part of an organisation. If the thing that you're wanting to do benefits a particular organisation, so if it benefited the junior school or the infant school or something like that, then you could approach an organisation that is already set up. So it could be a parents' organisation that is already set up. You could approach them and say, hey, shall we apply for this together? So if anybody's got any questions or got any ideas or got anything that they think they would just like to chat through with me, then you can find me either on Facebook or by emailing me, and I'll put my email address up in the chat again in a second. And just, yeah, let me know what you're thinking. I can't guarantee that you will get the funding, but I think it's just such a great opportunity that we can actually put funds back into our community.
Thank you very much, Lizette. Anybody want to come back on that?
Yeah, just very quickly, Don. An application has already been sent in from Friends of Histon Impington Community, asking for funds to help fund a play therapist for village children aged from 3 to 11. That was sent in last week.
That'll be the one thing then, because we've only had one application from a local group, so that'll be the one that has got in. So
I'm sure Neil can think of many more.
There's a question from Hannah Sheeling to Lizette about what kind of sums of money are available.
Well, it's nothing is set in stone because it's a proportion of what members buy and what they then gift to you. So what you can do to increase that is to encourage everybody who's attached to you to become a member of the co-op, and then to allocate their funds to you, to your cause, your organisation. So you can increase it that way. We're not talking huge amounts of money because it's a small store serving, you know, fairly limited population. But I think, you know, you're looking at something around. It could be £1,000 or more, depending. What they did this year was that they broke up so they usually pay out at a particular time of year, and this time they gave some funds earlier, and they're going to give some more funds in the autumn, just because of COVID, just because they thought organisations might be struggling. And I know that one of our local causes, with their very early payment, got £432. So that sort of gives you an idea that they will get more in September again. I think Yvonne's just asked a question about, can we donate our co-op points directly to the fund? Yes, so what you'll do is when you're a co-op member, you get asked, who do you want to donate your points to? Which charity do you want? Which local cause do you want to donate your points to? And you can pick there. So that's what I mean by you can ask other people to, people that you know, to donate their points to your particular cause, your particular fund.
Very good. Thank you very much, Lizette. Looking at the chat, Chris Cox has given us extra information about statistics. In South Cambs, there have been no cases in the last 10 days. So that's more good news. Kath Pennington, library friends have books. Do you want to talk about this, Kath? Maybe Kath's not there, or maybe Kath's muted.
I think Kath has gone because her name in the thread is gone a different colour. All
right. So the chat says that the library friends have books and are looking for a delivery service, or looking into a delivery service. Any advice? Is there demand expressed? Lots of adults books, a few children's books, DVDs, children's posters. So how could they get them out there? Any ideas? Oh, Kath's there now.
Hello, I'm back.
Hi.
Sorry, I had a problem.
Just reading out your chat message about the library friends, Kath.
Yes, we were talking about a bicycle delivery service. We thought perhaps we could photograph trays of books rather than catalogue them and then get them out to people. I know at the very beginning people were asking for books, and playing it safe, we recommended that people got books from online. The library service is offering everything online. There's lots of stuff going on, but lots of people like proper books, and we've got a garage full.
Right. Well, I can certainly put something out in the weekly update about that.
Oh, thank you.
If anyone's got any ideas as to how we can get those items out to the people that that would appreciate them, that'd be great.
Have you got protocols for handling things, you know, delivering materials?
Not exactly. Just usual hands. So for instance, the mobile phones that are going out to people will be sanitized before and after. I think it's easier. I think it's probably easier to sanitize something that's a hard cover than sort of paper and books. But I don't know. We haven't got anything written down in terms of a protocol, no.
Now, I've just noticed Samantha's raised the issue, and we wondered, is there a great shortage of reading books for children? because, you know, young children are romping through several books a week in normal times. Is there a need for some sort of book swap for children?
I'm not aware of anything.
No? Samantha will know. I wonder if Samantha's got experience of that. Okay, we will keep ploughing this furrow. Payment, we're not bothered too much about payment. Our book prices are famously very cheap, or people can offer what they like for the books. But
can I?
Yes.
Sorry, can I answer? This is Samantha. I can't get my video on, but can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So the children in reception used to take home one book every single day when they were at school. They've now given us access to an online way of accessing books, which obviously if you've got a child that's keen on stuff online and you've got access to the internet, then some of those children are still reading. But there's an awful lot of children that just won't read books offline, and also people that don't have access to the internet. So I think for particularly reception and very young children, if there was any way of getting hold of you know, the initial reading books, the sort of Biff and Chip and Kipper and those kind of things, in a way that they'll be able to get hold of them, you know, very many, large numbers of them, so sort of, you know, one a day kind of thing. The school isn't doing it, even though the children are allowed to go back to school now because of the sort of safety issues of releasing them. So I don't know if you've got a way of overcoming the safety issues. That's why it's only online. But I know there's a lot of children who are just haven't been reading because you know, they're not, either they can't access the internet or the children just don't like reading off a screen.
No, and that's quite understandable. I mean, I think this is a real crisis for young children learning to read, because as well as Biff and Chip stuff that they had from school, they were coming into the library and taking away lots of fabulous picture books at young readers and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's my daughter, because she's very sort of keen, you know, sort of able child, she's actually been able to learn to read by doing the stuff online and the stuff we've got in the house. But I think she's in the absolute minority there. And I know from just looking at what people are putting online that a lot of children just haven't read anything for the last 13 weeks.
Yeah. The summer reading challenge is going ahead. And again, it's all online. It started early and it's going to run for an extended period. If you look at the library's Facebook page, you can register with that. We'll keep putting, we've been putting stuff on our Facebook page, programme of events at the library and stuff like that. But that really needs to reach every child.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think a lot of people have seen that, but I think I think the ability to do stuff online, people are sort of aware of it and it's there, but there's either parents that can't access the internet or children who are just not interested in doing that kind of thing online. If there was any way of getting physical books available again for children, I think, but then obviously there's the safety issues of that. But because you were saying that you've got this way of delivering books.
The books are there in the community. And, you know, if you in normal times organised a book swap or a book exchange or something like that, you'd have lots of suitable material coming out of the woodwork. Yeah. We'll watch what Waterstones do this week, because they have a plan that if you browse and you touch a book, it's got to be quarantined on a return shelf for a period.
Right.
I mean, our books, the adult books that we've got in the garage, have been quarantined since about March. They've not been touched particularly.
So maybe there could be some kind of system of quarantine with children's books. So, you know, you can have a book in your house, or you maybe get a set of, I don't know, 12 books in your house for a certain amount of time, and then you take it back, it goes into quarantine, and then it can go back out again, perhaps.
Yes, it could. Yes.
Katie Shears just suggested that. Yeah, Katie Shears just suggested that on the chat.
Yes, Katie's one of the library friends.
Okay.
Yeah, I do think there'd be a massive call for that, because the children are not, even the ones that are at school now, are not having books sent home anymore because of the, you know, because of COVID issues. So I think if a system could be set up for physical books going into children's homes, I think that would be really appreciated.
Right. Well, perhaps we can work with you and get some more advice from you. Thank you very much, Samantha. It's really interesting.
Thank you.
Sounds like a popular idea, that, Kath. Thank you. The only other comment I've seen on the chat relating to this is Jenny Priest asked if there's any large print books available.
I'll look into that. I don't think we have many, but we have a few large print books, yes.
Okay. So the next topic is again from Jenny Priest, who wants a party. So any ideas how we can do another VE style day with a tea party? Maybe an unlock type celebration for those shielding vulnerable elderly people. I like the idea of that. That's a good one. Chris Cox suggests another VE style day with a tea party, perhaps a street feast on either the 5th or the 12th of July, which is not far away. So I don't know if you're thinking about something that is centrally organised or something that streets do on their own, of their own volition. Excuse me.
Yeah, so Don, I was just thinking, we did the VE Days thing. People did their own thing down their streets. It's Feast Week on the 5th to the 12th, I think it is. So I just thought we might use that as the date and just suggest to people that they organise something. That was all, because everybody did it in their own way on each street.
Good idea. We're not talking about road closures, are we?
No, clearly not. So people did their own thing on that Sunday for VE Day. Yeah. We could do our own thing for Feast Week and have our own local feast, rather than doing it all central on the green. That was just a thought, because the dates happen to coincide.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that, Chris. Yeah, party seems to be quite a popular idea. Right. So other topics. Are there any other topics on here that I've missed? I think we've covered most of it. I would like to distribute a few copies of the magazine mentioned earlier. How can I get them for Orchard Road? Well, the answer is from Paul Seekings. So if you
yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Antonio. I'm just about to send you an email just to send you the details and actually let me know, and then we can get them to you. That's no problem at all.
Thanks, so Paul Seekings' email address is
paul@highfriends.org.uk.
I'll put that into the weekly update, Paul, so that if anybody else
just push them through to me, and I'll make sure you get some.
Good.
And I think we might increase our print run, which is fine. It's great.
Nick Wood has a car full of face coverings and a few visors if anyone who's delivering books or anything else would like some. So if anyone has the need.
Correct. If anybody needs any face coverings for anything, even if it's just their own personal want, maybe they're going to be travelling on public transport or whatever it is, I have about 180 face coverings and a few visors, and I can get my hands probably on pretty much anything else anybody might need. Just let me know.
Thank you, Nick. Right, more chat about books, so that's definitely a good idea. People would like to donate books to this, so I think that's something that Kath can pick up on. Yvonne asked, do we need a brief guidance document for the co-op funding scheme? I think if Lizette can send me a short note to put in the briefing, in the weekly update, I'm happy to do that. So if she's not on the call again, I'll ask her. More suggestions, more offers of books. Nick Wood says, can't guarantee its safety, but there is the Phone Box micro library on Station Road that has books for all ages. I'm guessing people know about that. And that those who are desperate for books have already tried that source, but If not, that's there. And works quite well, I believe.
It does, but please don't just, people have been dumping carrier bags full of books and magazines and that kind of thing, which might seem generous, but it's not that helpful, because the micro library, I know the guy who runs it, just ends up having to organise it all and make sense of it. So if you've got a couple of, if you want to take a couple of books and put a couple of books in, that's great. But people who have been having a clear out have just been dumping big bags full of pretty meaningless stuff. So if you can encourage people not to do that, because Marcus now has a loft full of magazines and books that will possibly never get used.
Great, thank you, Nick. Right, next issue I think is from Katie Sheard. Not sure whether this has already been discussed, but is there any chance of the minibus getting up and running for trips into town or to the shops? Now that's an interesting question. So the minibus is owned and run by HI Friends, of which I happen to be a trustee, so I can probably speak on some authority on this one. The minibus is currently doing services for medical appointments, and we've widened that to include eye tests, hearing tests, dentist appointments, and so on. And we're also using it to do social appointments. So people who are isolated and could legally go and sit in somebody else's garden but can't get there, we're doing it for that. The issue relating for trips into town or to the shops is that we can't, at the moment, up until 5 o'clock this evening, have people within 2 meters of each other, which means that the capacity of the bus is basically 2 people sitting in particularly designated seats in order to keep 2 meters apart. Now that might change. That will change, I'm sure, this evening. But I am nervous about filling the minibus full of a dozen people and taking them to Tesco's or anywhere. So I think that's one that we would need to wait and see. I certainly wouldn't want to put a lot of, let's say, vulnerable people who have been very careful and not suddenly cram them together in a minibus. I don't know if anybody else from HI Friends is on the call and would like to comment upon that.
Don, I'd share completely what you said. I think it's, I understand the reason for the question and I understand what's behind it. And I think we're just very aware that the people that we're talking about are in the vulnerable category, in the higher risk category. And so I'd share exactly what you were saying. As we said, we worked it out about 2 people in there for 2 meters. Obviously, if things change, we can have another look at that as to what that might mean. But even then, on from that, it's another question, I think. So yeah, I'd share exactly what you've just been saying.
I mean, clearly it's not very efficient to use the minibus for individuals to travel, which is what we're doing at the moment. We only have a limited number of drivers. So if we opened it up for people to go one at a time into town, the drivers would be inundated with work. So it's a bit of a balance. I understand the question, as Paul said, but I think it's something we have to keep continually in review.
Yeah.
James Blanford Baker says, we're producing the first network magazine since lockdown. It should be out in a couple of weeks. So that's something to look forward to. There'll be some useful information in that.
And some experiences of lockdown and some reflections on it and that sort of thing.
Very good. Thank you, James. Chris Cox has shared an article about the co-op scheme. That'll help. So as long as Ed leaves the chat open long enough for me to copy it all down, I'll have that. More from Katie about books. Many extra books that have gone to the micro library could go to Histon Impington Library Friends. Or would that be inappropriate as they're particularly given to the micro library? Nick, any comments on that?
Yes, I shall speak to Marcus about that, and yeah, if it is appropriate, then I'd be happy to have Marcus drop them off at the library. How would we drop them off? Where would we drop them off?
Katie, Kath, anyone?
We'll get in touch with Marcus over that. But
Do you know Marcus?
I think Marcus's idea of it being a book swap is very important. There will be a time when people can donate a bag of books, hopefully before too long. But I think if he keeps it running in, two out, I think that's probably best at the moment.
Yeah, and he had a clear out last week, and
yes.
he's got a load of books. So if you can contact him and he can donate them to you, then great.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, Nick. That, I think I've caught up with the chat. I don't think there's if anything I've missed, please tell me. Otherwise, time for a last few comments before we close the meeting. No? Good. Right, so we'll see you all next week then, folks. Cheerio.
Thanks, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.